is a largely rural state. Most of the state faces shortages of primary care physicians. To help address that need, the Rural Track was founded in 2005 to recruit, admit, and nurture students who intend to work and live in rural Colorado upon completion of their training. The track adds experiences during all 4 years of medical school for its members. Students attend extra seminars, learn hands-on skills, receive mentorship, and gain clinical experience to reinforce and inspire their rural aspirations by immersing themselves in rural life. The Rural Track connects students with residencies that focus on rural preparation and with practice sites as they near the completion of their post-med school training. The goal of the Rural Track is to increase the number of University of Colorado Medical School graduates who enter and remain in practice in rural Colorado. This is the story of the Rural Track through the eyes of the leaders, teachers, students, graduates, and employers.
As a state school, the University of Colorado School of Medicine has an obligation to serve patients of Colorado. And the Rural Track actually helps provide that training for physicians who are going to go out and do that job.
Just being in medical school and going through training and residency, there are so many people who have their minds wide open and they're willing to do such a wide spectrum of things, but if they don't get exposure to it, they don't do it. And I think the Rural Track is that's exposure right there. They're never going to get anywhere else.
It's pivotal for our students to be able to be trained and to be able to be engaged with communities the way that the Rural Track does.
They get to see both sides. So they see where we live, how wonderful the outdoor is, how wonderful the community is. But they also see the hard parts, and they can prepare and have a better idea if that's what's right for them.
I think what I've liked about the Rural Track is that you get a pretty good sense of what it will actually be like. Because I think a lot of people can romanticize about being that small town doctor and wearing boots and all that, but when it comes down to it, I think we all agree that we want people that are committed to staying, and I think you're only going to be committed to stay if you have a good taste of what it's like. And
the skills labs are, for Rural Track, are some of the best things that you'll do during your first 2 years of med school, just because Dr. D always tries to make them educational but also really fun.
Of the clinical rotations I've done so far, it's a little funny how better equipped the Rural Track students are than the other students at things like putting on a cast or stitching somebody up. It's pretty evident pretty early, like, oh, that's clearly a Rural Track student because he already knows how to stitch up a wound or put a cast on.
Students do well when they have faculty mentors, and that's hard to do with a class size of 184 students, but in the Rural Track, students get to know the faculty individually, and that mentoring that's provided is absolutely invaluable. After they graduate, they stay in touch with them. My understanding is that many of those students through and after residency become mentors for the current students in the Rural Track, and that is a complete pipeline that is pretty unique and very important, I think.
If you want, in some rotations, you can be a wallflower. You can sit back and not participate and just follow, shadow, we call it sometimes. We don't do that here. The students jump in, they participate fully in patient care.
The Academic Health Center traditionally has not been necessarily a friendly or nurturing place to people interested in rural practice or primary care. So what we do is we provide essentially a family for them. We provide them a cohort of like-minded students so that they aren't faced with the question of, why do you want to go back to a rural area?
I chose the CU Rural Track program because I wanted to be with a group of people that were excited about what they were doing, and that's what I heard from my classmates who are in the Rural Track program.
There were many opportunities to change that route and to do something different and to maybe go down a more specialized route, because that's what I was hearing from all my professors was the best way to go. And Rural Track was a constant reminder that rural medicine was still alive and well and a viable path.
By 2018, 1 in 4 people in rural Colorado is going to be over the age of 65. As far as geographic barriers, 13 counties in our state do not even have a hospital.
When you look at the rural physician, a rural physician doesn't have typically 4 or 5 specialists on staff that they can call. On any given day, they can be called upon to look at a fracture, to look at the initial prenatal care on a pregnant lady, to dealing with diabetes. And their ability to diagnose and ascertain what the best plan of care is, there's some limitations to what those resources are that are available to them.
When you look down at the actual numbers, you can see that to create equitable primary care access across the state, we would have to have 20% more primary care providers in our rural areas to then equal areas like Denver, Grand Junction, Fort Collins.
The research indicates that individuals that come from diverse backgrounds, including rural communities, are most likely coming to medical school, are most likely to return back and practice in those communities.
It is very difficult to recruit, and then it's very expensive. So it costs a lot of money if you have to go through a recruiter. It's expensive to actually move people here. And so once we get them here, it's really important that they know what the area is like and that they're going to stay committed.
What we don't need is we don't need a physician that has such a limited training that they're effectively just working as a mid-level out in the rural market. We need a full scope physician that really has the ability to practice in all spheres of medicine, and that's what the Rural Track offers to us. You really get to see that patient from all spheres of their life. You get to sit at the baseball game and cheer next to them when their kids are doing well and your kids are doing well. And so there's so many great things about working in rural medicine that you might not get in an urban setting. But it's just a more difficult and different type of practice than what you see in an urban setting.
The geography of Colorado is not going to change, and so I believe that it is absolutely critical that we maintain the Rural Track going forward as a permanent part of the School of Medicine, because we are always going to have as our mission to serve the people in our rural counties.
We have pretty good evidence after the fact that the track has been in existence for 10 years that our graduates end up practicing in rural Colorado. If you look at programs like ours nationally, having 50% of your graduates actually end up in rural practice at the time they finish residency is good, and we're there. So we know that our graduates are ending up in rural Colorado. We have a continuous pipeline now of about 20 medical students and 4 or 5 PA students a year who are in the Rural Track. And if half of those end up actually in rural Colorado, that's every year a dozen new providers for rural Colorado.
Rural health in Colorado is wonderfully served by the University of Colorado Medical School having a rural track. And were it to go away, that would have a very negative effect on the health of our state.
We have depended on them, and right now I would be short for physicians if we weren't involved with the Rural Track.
One of the most difficult things, and I think that a lot of people don't appreciate about rural Colorado is in rural Colorado we are the safety net. We are the clinic that provides the care, and so in Walsenburg, if Spanish Peaks does not have physicians to provide, there are no physicians to be provided in Walsenburg or in Huerfano County. Us being able to do that and the Rural Track providing us with quality physicians is so key to us being successful and meeting the needs of the community as a whole.
This program is so supportive of rural medicine and primary care. I would be very nervous, especially in a university setting, that if we didn't have something like the Rural Track, interest in primary care would go down significantly.
I think there really is starting to become a network of Rural Track grads around the state, and I think that, to to lose that now, I think, would be really hard and really sad, because I think now the workforce is sort of poised to start helping that pipeline and shore it up and make it stronger for the future. So I think it needs to continue.
The rural track has been in existence for over 10 years now, but it's not yet a permanent part of the School of Medicine. In addition to institutional support, we need the help of external funders who care about the future rural workforce. We also rely on rural community preceptors who are willing to take their time to supervise our students. If you can help fund the rural track or can invest your time in teaching our students, please give me a call.